Okay, again, everybody, welcome. It's terrific to have you on this Motzi Shabbos, Shabbos Nachmu. Again, we sadly informed the Olam that Abe Arbach's father has passed away, Rav David Arbach, and the Levaya is tomorrow in the Yeshiva of Staten Island at 12 o'clock noon. We learn for his memory, a terrific man. His entire life was spent in the Yeshiva of Staten Island. As I said, I came to the Yeshiva for entrance examination in 1969. I think he was there already from 1966, and he never left. It's Rav David ben Chaim, Yehei Zichroi Baruch. We'll have information later with a phone number so that the Olam could call and be Menachem Avel Abe Arbach when we get our information. We are holding now 2 lines from the top of Nun Gimel Amud Aleph, a good daf, the daf of Gan, because as we know, it's a certain way to get Gan Eden to learn Gemara, and you know what it says. It says that a person regularly learns Gemara is a VIP in the next world, as it says, Ashrei mi shebalakan b'talmudei biyadai. And I see now in the Agudas Yisrael of Fairway, is that Ruvain Shenet? It is, right? So Ruvain, it's great to have you. Michal Avram was looking very lonely until you came. So it's great to have you over there, upholding the fort in the Agudas Yisrael of Fairways. You know what? I don't want to forget. I get the feeling that I could have forgotten, and this is not something that I want to forget. And both Shelley and Irving, please take note. Tomorrow night is a special start time. Our Chaver Adaf, Yaakov Smilowitz, who comes in from Detroit, his sister is getting married tomorrow, and his mother is my wife's very best friend, dearest friend, Ahuva Smilowitz. And if you remember last time, Marshall, that's who I came to Chicago for their wedding. Their youngest daughter is now getting married, and the chassan is in Lakewood tomorrow night. So I'm going to be coming back to Lakewood. I will be saying shir in shul tomorrow night, but they want me to read the ksuva. So shir is tomorrow night at 9:30. 9:30. Bruce wants to know this because it works out for him. Shir tomorrow night at 9:30. And since we're missing some people, Mark Frankel, and I noticed Shalom Fogel is not on, so we want to make sure that the word gets out to everybody. Just tomorrow night. The rest of the week, I believe that shir is 8:20. That's what I said, right? Michal Avram, that's what it says on the schedule, right? 8:20?
You said 8:30, Rabbi.
I said 8:30? Well, we're going to find out in a minute. 8:30.
It should maybe past 8:30.
8:30. Okay, I'm sorry. So the rest of the week shir is 8:30. But tomorrow night, 8:30. But tomorrow night shir is 9:30. I can't help it. That's when sometimes when I have to go to a chassan and they want me. So I, if they're not kaveya to have to be by the chuppah, then I don't go to the chuppah. I stay by the shir. But especially since this is my wife's best friend, and also it's a chaver adaf, so shir tomorrow night at 9:30. Tomorrow night, 9:30. Marshall is happy because for him it's 8:30. He's a wise guy. Hey, what do you expect?
It's time to chew my food for a change.
Yeah, right.
Duff Selfwood's got out of the surgery. He's in the Duff Selfwood's got out of the surgery. He's still in the hospital. He had something in the surgery on the back. One of the bones is missing. They're putting, but he's recuperating.
Is he doing okay?
Next time I spoke to him, I'm gonna speak to him tomorrow, but he's still in bed and he wanted to rest. I don't know what kind of, it was a 3 or 4 hour surgery.
Wow.
I don't know the details, I just know it has spine, one disc almost disintegrated, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And if I'm correct, it's Dov Ber Ben Pearl?
Yes.
Okay, so we learned for our chaver from Fairways a Talmud of Rav Miller, a regular congregant of Rav Miller, and a really, really special guy, Dov Ber Ben Pearl. He should have a refuah shalema b'sek shachar Yisrael. I did try to call both him and his wife before Shabbos, but if you speak to him, you could tell him I left messages, but I didn't succeed in getting hold of either of them. Okay, so 2 lines from the top of Nun Gimel Amud Aleph. Boy Rav Masna. Excuse me, boy, look how you can make a mistake in reading it. Boy Rav, Matana Haich. What's the din of a gift? In the case where the gift is made in the absence of Nachman. In other words, Nachman gives Dr. Block a gift, and it's not in his presence. Does Nachman have to say Leich Chazak Ukni? So the Gemara says that sounds like a weird question. I mean, it doesn't say weird. Excuse me. That's not a good expression. But Amar Shmuel man tiboyle la'aba. What is Rav's question? Chas v'shalom. We're not saying that Rav is asking a weird question, but Shmuel wonders what kind of question is that? If even Dr. Block gives money to Nachman, he only acquires where he says Leich Chazak Kni if it's not b'fanav. Hashto ma mocher the koyov lezuze that Dr. Block gave Nachman the money. Still, if he tells him go and acquire it then surely by a gift where Dr. Block is not giving him the money, surely if it's not in Nachman's presence, Nachman has to say Leich Chazak Kni. Now Rav, and of course Rav is not asking a weird question. The Rav Savar man yov matana be'ein yofiyov. Perhaps one who gives a matana does so generously. So if he just said, I'm giving you a matana, maybe even if it's not in Nachman's presence, he doesn't have to say Leich Chazak Kni. Now we said that these chazakas are good, even if done in a kolshu. So the Gemara says, No'al kolshu. The kama kolshu, what does it mean, even a minute amount? What does that mean? Kedishmul. The Amar Shmuel, Goder Geder, if let's say Dr. Block made a fence, Vishlima La'asara, and he completed it to 10 Tvachim. In other words, it was 9 Tvachim, and he completed it to 10 Tvachim. So he only did a minute amount, or a Paratz Pirza, he just opened up, making the opening a little bit bigger, Kadeshi Yikanes Vyatzaba, that people could get in and out. Harizu Chazak. It's a good Chazak. So now, as we welcome in Yitzi Muller for our 27th Zoomer of the evening, welcome Yitzi. Hi Geder Heichidami. This fence, what kind of a fence is it? If initially, even before it was 10 Tvachim, people couldn't get in, and Rashbam explains because the fence was sloping, so you couldn't climb over it, or the ground was slanting, and now that he finished it to 10, they also can't get in, then Mayavid, he didn't do any improvement. When it was 9, people could climb over it. Now that it became 10, people can't get in, then that's not a koshu, that's tuva of it. Then he made a very significant difference. Says, initially, people could get in easily. And now they could get in only with difficulty. That's considered a little improvement. That which it says he made an opening, what's considered an opening that's a kolshu? Initially, people could get in, and now they also could get in. Then Dr. Black didn't do anything. He made no improvement. Initially, people couldn't get in. Now they could get in. Then he made a significant improvement. That's not a koshu. Tuva of it. So again, the Gemara answers, initially, people got in only under duress. It was very hard to get in. But Ravcha, now they could get in easier. That is considered an improvement. Amar Rabasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Vasi says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, if let's say Dr. Black wanted to acquire the property of a ger, and remember the ger had no yoshim, so it's up for first come, first serve. Nasan Srar, if he put a stone there, or the hoyel, and benefited it, and improved the property, or Natal Srar, or he took away a stone, v'hoyel. By the way, in this case, it's not talking about from a ger. It's talking about that he wants to purchase it from Nachman with a kinyan chazaka. So Nasan Srar, if he put a rock there, v'hoyel, and he improved it, or Natal Srar v'hoyel, or he took away a rock and improved it, harizu chazaka. That's a chazaka. So the Gemara says, "My nasan or my natal." What exactly does it mean? He put a stone there. He took away a stone. Ilema nasan srar v'sacher mayamina. He put in a stone and stopped up water from flooding the field. In other words, there was a dam that was protecting the field, and it sprung a leak. And Dr. Black put in a stone to block water from entering the field and flooding it. On Natal Srar, he took out a stone and let water escape from the field that was flooding the field. The Apik Mayamina, then that's just an act of Hashavas Aveda. That's no raya that he acquired it from Nachman. That just is an act of Hay Mavriach Ari Minichsei Chaveroyim. That's just chasing a lion away from one's friend's estate. That's not necessarily an act of kinyan. It's your duty to try to prevent a loss. Ella Nosan Srar, he put in a pebble, did Samid Lamaya. He kept water in the field so that the field could be watered, that the field could be irrigated. That's an improvement. On Natal Srar, or he took a pebble so to allow water to come into the field. He took away a stone, and allowed water to enter into the field to irrigate it. These are acts of improvements that then Dr. Black would acquire the field. Now, the next Gemara is talking about acquiring property that is hefker. For example, if it's property of a ger that died, or property of hefker. Now you have two properties, we'll call them field A, field B, next to each other, and there was an elevated border, a meitzer, between the two fields. So this was a border that served as a border for both fields on either side, A and B. So v'amar Rabasi, amar Rabbi Yochanan, shtei tzadais, there are two fields, Umeitzer echad beineim, with one elevated border between them. Hilzik ba'achas mehem liknoisa, if Marshall takes possession of one of the fields, Marshall has on his shortwave radio, he has a special shrill siren if a ger dies without any relatives, because he wants to hop on his Corvette any time of the day and night to possess it. He's always looking for get rich quick schemes, and a ger that dies without relatives, that he could take over his high-rise apartment building, that's his dream, right? That's his get rich quick scheme. So these two fields with an elevated boundary between them. If he takes possession of field A to acquire it, So Kana, he acquires field A. Liknas oisav eskaverta. He makes a kinyan to acquire it and also field B. Oisa Kana, he acquires field A because that's what he made an improvement in. Chaverta loikana. If Marshall was, a little bleary-eyed, because it's 3 o'clock in the morning that he dashes there, he's in his pajamas, and he's half asleep. Liknais es chaverta, if he stands in field A, and he has in mind to acquire field B, then he doesn't even acquire field A. Field B he doesn't acquire because he didn't make a kinyan in it, and field A he doesn't acquire because he didn't have in mind to acquire it. So he goes home with only his pajamas. Now, by Reb Zera says, what about Hikne Hilzik Ba'akas Mehem Liknois, he makes a kinyan on one of the fields, field A, Liknois Oisa, to acquire it, the Es HaMeitzer, and the elevated boundary, and the Es Chaverta, and field B. Here Marshall is actually not so dumb. Here he's really into something, because he thinks clear at 3 o'clock in the morning. Says the Gemara, Mao, what's the din? Mi amrinan, do we say meitza da'ara chadhu, that the boundary with the land is considered one? So he acquires field A, and he acquires the boundary. And since the boundary is considered one, and it's also shared with field B, so then he acquires field B too. So then he acquires the whole kit and caboodle. And he could close the car shop and learn every chok on time. Oy Dilma, or perhaps, the land is separate and the boundary is separate. So when he makes a kinyan on the land A, he only acquires land A. He doesn't acquire the boundary, and he doesn't acquire field B. Take it. The Gemara says we're not sure. Now, the same idea would be if, let's say, Marshall is standing on the boundary and just makes a kinyan on the boundary. Boy, Rabbi Elazar Hirzik b'meitzer, if he makes a kinyan on the boundary, he makes an improvement on the boundary, liknais shteyen, and he has in mind to acquire the boundary and the two lands. Mao, do we say, mi aminon hai meitzer afsara da'arahu, the boundary is the reins of the land, just like you make a kinyan on the reins of an animal, you acquire the animal. So he made a kinyan on the boundary, he acquires the field. And since the boundary is connected to both fields, he acquires both fields. So do we say it's after the arahu vikani, and he acquires the boundary and both fields? And all he gets is the boundary. Take it. We're not sure. And by the way, if he only had in mind to acquire the two fields and not the boundary, then again all he would have is his pajamas. And those pajamas are very old. Now, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua. Now a new case. Rav Nachman says again, Marshall's shortwave radio goes up 3 o'clock in the morning. There's two apartments, one within the other. Right? In order to get out to the street, you have to go from the inner apartment to get to the outer apartment to get to the street. So Amar Nachman Amar Shnei Batim Zelef Nimizeh, two houses, one within the other. Hilzik Bechitzin Liknaisai, if he makes a chazaka in the outer apartment to acquire it, Kanai. Liknas Oisai Vesapnimi, he does it to acquire the outer one and the inner one. He doesn't get the inner one. Chitzin Kana, he gets the outer one, Pnimi Loikam. He doesn't get the inner one. Liknais is a Pnimi, if he makes a chazaka in the outer one to acquire the inner one, he gets nothing but his pajamas. Af Chitzin Nami Loikam. Wow, what happens the other way around? Hirzik Pnimi, now remember, in order to get to the street, you have to pass from the inner one to the outer one. So Hirzik Pnimi, if he makes a chazaka in the inner one, liknoisai, kana, he acquires the inner one. Liknois oisoi ve'esachitzen, to acquire it and the outer one. Since the outer one is the way to get outside, kanashneim, he acquires both. Liknois esachitzen, if he makes a chazak and the inner one to acquire only the outer one, af panimi loikana, he doesn't even get the inner one. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Bavu. Now this is really, Marshall has been sick over this for years. There was a 10-acre property of a ger. Haboina palterin gedaylim b'nichzei hager. He started building, putting up bricks for a huge mansion in the property of a ger. And then Yitz Fuchs, who's laughing all the way to the bank, puts on doors on the mansion. Uba achar v'him and ladalzais kana. Yitz acquires the land and the palace. My timer. Kama livnei ba'almahu da'apet. All he did was put on bricks. Putting up bricks is not an improvement yet in the land. Putting up the doors improves the land. Look at Marshall. It's unbelievable. Now, what if Marshall, this is a happy ending. What if Marshall finds a palace, mamish a mansion. It's in the Swedish mountains. He finds a mansion. Amar Avdimi bar Yosef, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amoitzi palterin b'nichzei hager. A ger died in the Swedish mountains, and he hopped on a jet, and he goes there. V'sad behem siyad echad, and he plasters one of the walls with lime. Or kier echad, or he makes one design on the walls. Kanan, that's an improvement. V'kama, how much does he have to coat with lime? Amar Rav Yosef, amma, just an amma, about 2 feet. Amar Rav Chisda, keneged haPesach. It's only enough an amma if it's in a recognizable place opposite the door. Now, for the final teaching of the evening, Amar Rav Amram, Hai Milsa Omalon Rav Sheshes. This matter was told to us by Rav Sheshes. V'anhirinu einon mimasnisa. And he illuminated us, and he brought proof to it from a brisa. In other words, he taught this, and he brought proof from a brisa. Marshall gets on his short wave that there's 3 acres belonging to a ger that is available. So what does Marshall do? He brings his inflatable waterbed, and hamatzia matzois b'nichzei hager. He puts his inflatable waterbed on the property, and he lays down kana. He acquires the property. That means that since he used the land, one of the ways to make a chazakah is to let the land benefit him. As we're going to see in this brisa that Rav Sheshes quotes, that if you want to acquire an eved, if the eved helps you up into bed, so you are leaning upon the eved and getting benefit from it, you acquire the eved. And therefore, as he taught, Mahi, what's the brisa? The Tanya, for we learned in the brisa in Masechtas Kedushin, Keitzad b'chazaka. How do you acquire an eved Kanani with chazaka? No aloi min aloi. If the eved puts on your shoe, or hit aloi min aloi, or takes off your shoe, or shahaylach kelev acharav l'beis hamerchatz, or he carries your bath apparel to the bathhouse. Of Shita, he helps you undress. V'yachitza, he bathes you. Sachel, he anoints you. Gerdo, he scrapes your skin. Albisha, he gets you dressed. V'in Eloi, he puts on your shoes. Now the Rishonim ask, you just said before putting on a shoe. So in the Brisa, in Masechtas Kedushin, it doesn't say na'aloi minaloi in the beginning. Other Rishonim say it just says it because of the order of getting dressed. And the last thing you do when you help somebody to dress is help them put on their shoes. That's one of the reasons why it says that the bracha in the morning of Sha'asli Kol Tzarki is on shoes. That's why some people don't say Sha'asali Kotzarki on Tisha B'Av until the afternoon. Amenik is to say it in the morning, but some people don't say it until the afternoon. Now, why is the shoes Sha'asali Kotzarki? So some say it's because without shoes, you feel pain in your entire body. But others say that it's because it signifies the last step of one preparing for the day. The last thing he does is he puts on his shoes. If you put on your shoes before you put on your pants, you need to learn how to get dressed. Or v'higviu, or if the slave picks the person up and helps him to get into bed, kanai, he acquires the slave. So that, by the way, is the raya, because you see where the person is resting, puts his weight on the eved, he acquires the eved. So here, when Marshall puts his weight on the land and rests on the land on his water mattress, he acquires the land. Reb Shimon says, Loitei chazaka gedola me'agva. Chazaka shouldn't be more picky than agva. She'agva kaina b'kol makom. Because acquiring, by metaltalin, there's different kinyanim. There's meshicha, there's mesira, but hagva, lifting something up, always works. And it works in all properties, even in the property of the seller. Hagva kaina b'chol makom. So my comment, what is that in response to? Hachi comment. The Tanakama holds higvil rabbi kanu. If the slave picks up the master, then the master acquires him. But higvil rabbi, if the master picks up the slave, loy kanu. Reb Shimon says that doesn't make sense. Loy tei chazaka g'nayla me'agva. And we know shagva kaina b'chol makam. So therefore, even if he picks up the servant, he acquires the servant. Okay, Rabbi Isai, we are going to learn the Mishnah Yomis now. Just a reminder that the schedule for this week, 9:30 tomorrow night, one time start time because of the Smilowitz wedding, 9:30 tomorrow night, 8:30 the rest of the week, Be'ez Hashem. I will be in the shul tomorrow evening at 9:30, so please, Michal, Avram, Ruvain, make sure that they announce by Mincha Marav that start time tomorrow in the shul, Yetz Hashem, I will be there, is 9:30 tomorrow night, and the rest of the week will be at 8:30. I hope to be broadcasting 8:30 back in the mountains Monday evening. That's at least the plans right now.